The desert stretches endlessly, a sea of golden dunes under a blazing sun, silent, vast, and hiding more than meets the eye. Beneath these shifting sands lie secrets older than time itself, whispers of civilizations long gone, their stories etched in stone and buried by the wind. For centuries, explorers and scholars have been drawn to these barren landscapes, not for what they show, but for what they conceal: enigmatic ruins, lost cities, and artifacts that defy explanation. This is where history whispers its riddles, waiting for those bold enough to listen. Imagine standing at the edge of such a place, the heat pressing down, the silence so deep it hums. You kneel, brush away the sand, and suddenly your fingers graze something cold, something not meant to be there, a relic, a clue, a piece of a puzzle that could rewrite everything we thought we knew. That thrill of discovery, that electric moment when the past reaches out to the present, is what drives us to uncover the desert's ancient mysteries. And today, we're embarking on that journey together. From hidden tombs filled with untold treasures to cryptic symbols carved into rock by hands we'll never know, the desert guards its secrets fiercely. But what if we told you that some of these puzzles have finally been solved, or that others remain so baffling they haunt the brightest minds to this day? In this video, we'll unveil 25 of the most astonishing secrets ever pulled from the sands. Tales of vanished empires, advanced technologies forgotten by time, and legends that might just be true. This isn't just a history lesson, it's an invitation to step into the unknown. So take a deep breath and let's dive in. The desert has waited long enough to share its stories. The first secret hidden beneath the desert's endless expanse takes us to the fabled lost city of Ubar, a place so legendary it was often called the Atlantis of the sands. For centuries, scholars debated whether Ubar was real or just a tale spun by ancient travelers until modern technology tore the veil away. In the late 20th century, satellite images picked up faint traces of crumbling walls and roads in Oman's desolate Rub al-Khali desert, revealing what archaeologists would later confirm: Ubar was no myth. This once thriving city flourished as a hub of the incense trade, its wealth built on frankincense and myrrh, treasures as valuable as gold in the ancient world. Caravans stretched for miles, carrying spices and stories across Arabia, linking distant civilizations. But then catastrophe struck. Some say the city's arrogance invited divine wrath, echoing the Quran's account of a people punished for their pride. Others point to nature's fury, sinkholes swallowing Ubar whole as the ground gave way beneath it, collapsing its grand towers into the earth without warning. What's chilling is how closely the ruins match the old tales. Crumbling wells and fortifications tell of a city that vanished in an instant, preserved under the sand like a forgotten breath. Today, when the wind shifts just right, you can still see fragments of those ancient roads, pathways that once bustled with life, now leading only to silence. Ubar's discovery didn't just prove a legend true, it reminded us how easily even the mightiest cities can be erased, leaving only whispers in the dust. And if Ubar was real, what other forgotten wonders might still lie hidden, waiting for the desert to yield its next secret? The desert holds more than just lost cities sometimes. Its secrets are carved into the earth itself, so vast they can only be seen from the skies. In Saudi Arabia's barren plains, ancient people left behind a puzzle even stranger than the Nazca lines. Colossal geoglyphs shaped like kites, wheels, and sprawling geometric patterns. These aren't mere scratches on the surface. Some stretch longer than 2 football fields, their precise lines defying time and erosion. Discovered accidentally by pilots in the 1920s, these desert carvings remained largely ignored for decades, overshadowed by their Peruvian cousins. But recent satellite imaging has revealed thousands of them, clustered in regions so harsh even modern nomads avoid them. The most haunting are the kites, long stone walls funneling into enclosures, some spanning nearly 2 miles. At first glance, they seem like traps herding animals toward deadly pits, yet the scale is all wrong for gazelle or ibex, so what or who were they built for? Then there are the wheels, their spokes radiating like sunbursts across the sand. Unlike the Nazca line's animal figures, these shapes feel mathematical, almost celestial. Were they maps of the stars guiding ancient travelers, or altars for rituals lost to time? The Bedouin whisper of jinn, spirits said to roam these empty quarters, but archaeologists point to something equally enigmatic, a nomadic culture so advanced they terraformed the desert itself. The real mystery isn't just their purpose, but their endurance. These lines predate the pyramids, surviving 6,000 years of wind and sun. Whoever made them left no writing, no tools, just these silent, sprawling messages. Were they warnings, prayers, or something we've yet to comprehend? One thing's certain, in a land where water is scarcer than gold, pouring labor into symbols visible only from above suggests a meaning far deeper than survival. The desert guards its truths well, but with every new discovery, the sands loosen their grip, offering whispers of a world that once turned this wasteland into a canvas. Scattered across the vast emptiness of Libya's great sand sea, there's a treasure that doesn't glitter. It glows. Shards of golden yellow glass, some as large as bricks, lie half buried in the dunes, shimmering under the desert sun like frozen sunlight. This isn't ordinary glass, it's Libyan desert glass, a substance so rare and mysterious that even today, scientists debate how it came to exist in one of the most inhospitable places on Earth. The enigma begins with its origin. Some researchers argue these fragments are the remnants of a cataclysmic meteorite impact 29 million years ago, when a fiery space rock slammed into the desert with enough force to melt the sand into glass instantly. Others propose an even wilder theory, a natural atmospheric explosion similar to the Tunguska event, where a comet or asteroid detonated midair, raining superheated debris across hundreds of miles. The evidence, unlike impact craters, there's no definitive scar in the landscape, just an eerie field of glass stretching farther than the eye can see. But here's where history deepens the mystery. Ancient Egyptians, masters of symbolism and craftsmanship, prized this glass enough to place it at the heart of power. In the tomb of Tutankhamun, archaeologists found a stunning pectoral adorned with a scarab carved not from jade or lapis lazuli, but from Libyan desert glass. Why would a pharaoh choose material born from celestial violence? To the Egyptians, the glass wasn't just beautiful, it was sacred, a piece of the sky itself. Some scholars believe it symbolized the sun god Ra's divine light, a tangible connection between the heavens and the ruler meant to bridge them. The desert guards its secrets well, but this one feels almost defiant. How did ancient traders traverse hundreds of miles of lethal dunes to retrieve these fragile fragments? Was the glass's origin part of its allure, a relic of gods or disasters? And why, in a land where water is life, does the sand hold echoes of fire? Each shard is a riddle without an answer, a reminder that the desert's greatest treasures aren't always gold. Sometimes they're the things that shouldn't exist at all. High in the cliffs overlooking the Dead Sea, where the air is so dry it cracks your lips, a Bedouin shepherd tossed a stone into a cave in 1947 and shattered our understanding of history. What he heard wasn't the clatter of rock against stone, but the hollow echo of clay jars preserving the oldest biblical manuscripts ever found, the Dead Sea Scrolls. Hidden for 2,000 years, these fragile parchments survived wars, empires, and the relentless desert because of one perfect accident, the caves of Qumran, where the arid climate and constant darkness acted as a natural time capsule. The scrolls weren't just scraps of text, they were a library of ancient Jewish thought, containing everything from copies of the Hebrew Bible to mysterious sectarian writings. Imagine holding a psalm written in the same century as Jesus, or a prophecy so old it predates the destruction of the Second Temple. Scholars realized instantly that these weren't just relics. they were keys to unlocking how sacred texts evolved over centuries. Differences between the scrolls and later versions of the Bible revealed edits, debates, and even lost books like the enigmatic War Scroll, which describes an apocalyptic battle between the sons of light and sons of darkness. But the desert wasn't done giving up its secrets. In 2021, archaeologists sifting through the same cliffs found new fragments, tiny, charred pieces of a Greek translation of the 12 minor prophets, proving that scrolls still lay hidden. Even now, teams scour the area with drones and thermal imaging, chasing rumors of undiscovered caves. One theory suggests the Essenes, a reclusive Jewish sect, methodically hid their entire library as Roman armies advanced, turning the desert into a sacred vault. Why does this matter? Because every recovered fragment forces us to rewrite history in real time. A single comma's shift can change how we read ancient prophecies or understand early Christianity's roots. And the most thrilling part, experts estimate less than a quarter of Qumran's caves have been explored. Somewhere in those sun-baked cliffs, more parchment may wait, brittle but legible, a message from the past whispering across millennia. The Dead Sea Scrolls remind us that the desert doesn't just bury secrets, sometimes it saves them. In the heart of Jordan's unforgiving desert, where rain falls less than 6 inches a year, an ancient city didn't just survive, it flourished. Petra, the rose-red wonder carved into cliffs by the Nabateans, was more than a trading hub. It was a masterpiece of survival, built on an engineering secret so advanced it rivals modern systems. While visitors today marvel at its temples and tombs, Petra's true genius lies hidden beneath the sand, a labyrinth of dams, cisterns, and channels that turned barren rock into a thriving oasis. The Nabateans didn't fight the desert, they tamed it. When rare storms unleashed flash floods, their network of dams and diversion channels captured every precious drop, funneling water into massive underground cisterns carved from solid stone. Some reservoirs held up to 400,000 gallons, enough to sustain the city for months. But the real brilliance was in the details. Terracotta pipes, fitted with self-cleaning filters, ran beneath streets and temples, delivering water directly to homes and even public fountains. In a land where thirst could kill, Petra's elites boasted swimming pools and gardens, their wealth measured not in gold but in water. What's astonishing is the precision. The Nabateans mapped the desert's natural watersheds, positioning their canals to avoid evaporation and sabotage. Sluice gates controlled flow during droughts, while intricate pressure systems used gravity to distribute water evenly across the city's tiers. Archaeologists have compared it to Roman engineering, except Petra's system predates Rome's by centuries. And unlike Rome's aqueducts, which required constant maintenance by an empire, Petra's works operated silently, autonomously for generations. But here's the twist. This wasn't just about survival. Water was power. By controlling the desert's most precious resource, the Nabateans turned Petra into a mandatory stop for spice caravans crossing Arabia. Traders paid in water taxes, and the city grew rich not just from myrrh and frankincense, but from the liquid that made their transport possible. When Rome finally annexed Petra in 106 CE, they didn't destroy the waterworks, they copied them, integrating Nabatean designs into their own empire. Today, as climate change tightens its grip, researchers are studying Petra's ancient blueprints for solutions to modern water scarcity. Those crumbling channels hold a lesson. Civilization doesn't bloom in spite of the desert, but because of it. The Nabateans didn't conquer nature, they listened to it, and in that silence found the secret to turning stone into life. Beneath the sun-scorched dunes of southern Iraq, where the Tigris and Euphrates whisper tales of mankind's first cities, archaeologists have chased a ghost for over a century, the tomb of Gilgamesh. Not just a king, but a figure straddling myth and history, immortalized in the world's oldest epic poem. The Epic of Gilgamesh, etched onto crumbling clay tablets 4,000 years ago, paints him as a tyrant turned seeker, a man who defied gods and faced the truth of mortality. But was he real, and if so, could his final resting place still lie hidden under the desert's shifting sands? In 2003, a team of German archaeologists made a startling claim. They'd pinpointed the ancient city of Uruk's lost riverbed using satellite imagery, and beneath it, the ruins of a structure matching descriptions of Gilgamesh's tomb. The site, near modern-day Nasiriyah, revealed walls lined with inscriptions praising a king who tried to conquer death, a phrase echoing the epic's themes. But the real bombshell came when ground-penetrating radar detected a network of chambers beneath the ruins, untouched for millennia. Flooding and political instability halted further exploration, leaving the world to wonder, had they truly found the grave of history's first hero? The parallels between Gilgamesh's story and later myths are uncanny. His quest for immortality leads him to Utnapishtim, a flood survivor gifted eternal life, a tale eerily similar to Noah's Ark but written 1,000 years earlier. Could this mean the biblical flood story was borrowed from Mesopotamian lore? Cuneiform tablets describe deluges so precisely they match geological evidence of ancient Euphrates flooding around 2900 BC. Some scholars argue Gilgamesh's tomb might hold more than bones. It could be a time capsule of Sumerian cosmology, with texts rewriting our understanding of early religion. Yet skepticism lingers. Unlike Egyptian pharaohs, Mesopotamian rulers rarely built grand tombs. Their afterlife beliefs focused on memory, not monuments. Could the tomb simply be a symbolic shrine, or even a later structure retroactively linked to the legend? Others suggest the epic itself is the real tomb, burying Gilgamesh's legacy in metaphor. When British museum experts reconstructed the poem from scattered fragments in the 1800s, they found a startling admission. Even kings must die, but stories endure. Today, the search continues. Iraqi archaeologists armed with drones and LiDAR technology scan the desert for hidden chambers, while linguists scour newly digitized tablets for clues. Whether Gilgamesh's bones wait beneath the sand or not, his epic's hold on humanity is undeniable. From Babylon to Hollywood, his struggle against mortality resonates because it's ours, the first recorded tale of a human staring into the abyss and demanding answers. The desert may yet yield his tomb, but perhaps the greater discovery is realizing how little our questions have changed in 4,000 years. The deserts of northwestern Saudi Arabia hold a secret older than the pyramids, vast, haunting structures known as mustatils or djinn blocks to local Bedouin. These rectangular stone formations stretch hundreds of feet across the barren landscape, their walls standing just a few feet high yet precise enough to rival modern geometry. Discovered in the 1970s but ignored for decades, recent aerial surveys have revealed over 1,000 of these enigmatic monuments, clustered in a region where nothing should have thrived. Built 7,000 years ago, they whisper of a civilization so ancient it predates writing itself. But who erected them and why? One theory points to sacrifice. Excavations at some mustatils uncovered corridors leading to central chambers filled with animal bones, mostly cattle, goats, and gazelles, suggesting ritual slaughter on a massive scale. The bones arrangement hints at ceremonial feasting, perhaps to honor deities or mark seasons. But why invest such effort in a place so inhospitable? Archaeologists note that 7 millennia ago, this wasn't desert but grassland, a brief green Arabia period between ice ages. The mustatils might be monuments to a vanishing world built by people pleading for rain. Then there's the celestial angle. Many mustatils align with sunrise or star patterns, their long corridors pointing toward solstices. Could they be Neolithic calendars tracking time for nomadic herders? Some researchers see parallels to Britain's Stonehenge, though the mustatils are twice as old and far more numerous. Others propose territorial markers, their sheer size declaring ownership of grazing lands. But the most haunting theory ties them to pre-Islamic spirits. The Bedouin call them works of the djinn, believing these towering shapes were built by supernatural beings. Ancient Arab lore speaks of jinn as shape-shifters who demanded tribute. Could the mustatils be places where humans sought their favor? Recent LiDAR scans have deepened the mystery. Beneath several mustatils lie hidden chambers, their entrances deliberately sealed. One contained an upright stone, polished smooth, with no tool marks a sacred object or an idol. No burials or settlements have been found nearby, suggesting these weren't tombs or homes, but something far more ephemeral, bridges between worlds. What chills the spine is the scale of coordination required. Building one mustatil would take a village weeks. Constructing 1,000 implies a society with shared beliefs spanning generations. Yet they left no pottery, no tools, no trace beyond these ghostly outlines. Like desert mirages, the mustatils taunt us solid yet elusive, their purpose dissolving under scrutiny. Were they altars, meeting places, or messages to gods we've forgotten? The stones keep their silence, but one truth remains. 7,000 years ago, someone stood in this wasteland and decided to carve order into chaos, leaving behind puzzles we're only beginning to read. East of Egypt's Bahariya oasis, the desert doesn't just change color, it transforms into another world. The white desert stretches like an alien landscape, blindingly pale under the sun, its surface littered with towering chalk formations so surreal they defy logic. Some rise like melting candles, their tops wider than their bases. Others twist into arches or crouch like frozen beasts, their curves smoothed by centuries of wind carrying grains of sand like microscopic sculptors. This isn't just erosion, it's art, shaped by time into shapes that flicker between familiar and impossible. The Bedouin have stories for these stones. One whispers of a lavish wedding party, their revelry so arrogant it angered the heavens. As punishment, the guests were turned to stone mid-celebration, their laughter silenced, their goblets still raised. Walk among the formations at dusk, they say, and you might hear faint music on the wind or see shadows move where no living thing stirs. Scientists, of course, offer a different tale. 30 million years ago, this was the bottom of an ocean. The chalk spires are fossilized reefs, their softer layers eaten away by desert storms, leaving behind the harder rock in these ghostly forms. Yet even geology can't drain the magic. The most famous formation, the mushroom, balances a massive capstone on a slender stem as if placed by giants. Nearby, the chicken appears mid-strut, its stone feathers ruffled by an eternal breeze. At night, under a moonlit sky, the entire desert glows like bleached bone, the formations casting shadows that seem to shift when you aren't looking. Modern visitors report an uncanny quiet here, as if the air itself is holding its breath. The real mystery isn't how these shapes formed, but why they tug at something deep in our minds. Is it the way they tease recognition, like half-remembered dreams, or the unsettling sense that they might not be entirely still? The white desert doesn't give answers, only questions carved in stone, waiting for the next gust of wind to whisper them again. Among the desert's most enduring legends is one that bridges faiths and centuries, the tale of the Seven Sleepers. Christian and Islamic traditions both tell of devout youths fleeing persecution, taking refuge in a cave where divine intervention plunged them into a centuries-long slumber. When they awoke, the world had changed beyond recognition. This story isn't just a parable, it's rooted in real places, with caves in Turkey and Jordan both vying for the title of the sacred site. In Ephesus, Turkey, a grotto crowned with ancient inscriptions draws pilgrims convinced it's the sleeper's resting place. Byzantine texts from the 6th century describe it as a place of miracles, where oil lamps burned without fuel and prayers echoed as if whispered by unseen lips. Excavations revealed 7 stone beds arranged side by side, their surfaces worn smooth by centuries of reverence. But here's the twist: carbon dating places artifacts at the site no earlier than the 5th century, centuries after the Roman persecution the sleepers supposedly fled. Could this be a later shrine built to honor a legend already old? Across the desert in Jordan, near Amman, another cave stakes its claim. Local lore insists this is the true site, pointing to a Quranic verse that describes the sleeper's dog guarding the entrance, its paws eternally outstretched. Archaeologists found a mosaic here depicting 7 figures, their names matching those in early Islamic texts. Beneath it lay animal bones and coins from the reign of Decius, the Roman emperor who persecuted Christians in the 3rd century, precisely when the legend unfolds. The coincidence is striking, but is it proof? The real magic of this story lies in its resilience. For Christians, it's a testament to faith's power to transcend time. For Muslims, it's a sign of divine protection, recounted in Surah al-Kahf. Scholars note how the tale evolved, absorbing details from Zoroastrian myths and local folklore as it spread. What began as a whisper in the desert became a chorus across continents, a rare narrative uniting the Abrahamic traditions. Standing in either cave today, you feel the weight of that shared awe. The stones don't care which faith claims them, they've heard prayers in every tongue. Whether history or allegory, the 7 sleepers remind us that some stories are too powerful to stay buried, even in the deepest desert. From the air, the deserts of Jordan and Syria reveal a startling pattern, ancient stone walls stretching for miles, converging into enclosures so vast they can only be seen in full from above. These are the desert kites, intricate hunting traps built between 9000 and 5000 BCE, long before the wheel or writing existed. Their name comes from early pilots who spotted their diamond-like shapes from the skies, but their purpose was far deadlier than flight. These were mega traps designed to funnel entire herds of gazelles or ibex to their doom. The scale is staggering. Some kites stretch over 60 miles, their guiding walls narrowing like a funnel into hidden pits or sudden cliffs. Hunters would drive animals into the wide mouth, then panic them with torches or noise, forcing them toward the kill zone at the narrow end. The sophistication is chilling. False exits led prey in circles, while strategically placed cairns marked paths only the hunters knew. Recent LiDAR scans show kites layered across migration routes like a grid, suggesting ancient peoples didn't just hunt opportunistically, they planned their harvests with the precision of farmers tending crops. But here's what makes them extraordinary. They rewrite our understanding of early human cooperation. Building a single kite required thousands of hours of labor, meaning multiple clans had to collaborate across generations. The kites also hint at a darker truth: ecological change. As the region dried after the last ice age, gazelle herds shrank, forcing hunters to innovate or starve. Some scholars argue the kites accelerated the decline they sought to counter, wiping out entire populations in seasonal slaughters. The most haunting kites are in Jordan's Hara region, where one enclosure holds the bones of over 100 gazelles, all killed in a single event. Yet these weren't just butcheries. Artifacts found nearby, beads, ochre pigments, suggest rituals accompanied the hunts, perhaps thanking spirits for the bounty. Today, Bedouins still call these structures works of the old men, attributing them to a race of giants. In a way, they're right. The kites stand as monuments to human ingenuity's double edge, the brilliance to reshape a landscape and the hubris to drain it dry. Herodotus wrote of a horror that swallowed an army whole, 50,000 Persian soldiers vanishing into Egypt's western desert without a trace. The ancient historian claimed it happened in 525 BCE, when King Cambyses Roman II sent his forces to crush the oracle of Ammon at Siwa oasis. The troops marched into a sandstorm so fierce it erased them from history, leaving only whispers of their fate. For centuries, scholars dismissed it as legend until the desert began coughing up its secrets. In the early 1980s, a pair of Italian archaeologists stumbled upon something eerie near the modern town of al-hijr. Fragments of Achaemenid-era pottery, rusted daggers, and human bones bleached white by the sun. The artifacts clustered near an ancient caravan route, a path that would have led straight toward Siwa. Then, in 2009, a team using ground-penetrating radar found something even more chilling, a mass grave beneath the dunes, its skeletons tangled as if frozen mid-panic. Forensic analysis revealed death by suffocation, with sand grains still embedded in their nasal cavities, but the real smoking gun came from a bronze bracelet. Among the scattered relics was a corroded arm, and bearing the insignia of Cambyses's elite regiment, the Immortals. This wasn't just any unit, these were the Empire's finest, the King's personal guard. Their presence suggests this wasn't a lost patrol, but the vanguard of Herodotus' vanished army. Even more telling, the site sits at the edge of the Great Sand Sea, where sudden haboobs, massive dust storms with winds over 60 miles per hour, can reduce visibility to zero in seconds. Modern Bedouins still warn travelers of the wind that steals men, yet mysteries linger. Why would Cambyses send his best troops on a suicide march through known death traps? Some historians argue the story masks a darker truth: mutiny. Persian records mention unrest among troops stationed in Egypt, weary of endless campaigns. Could the sandstorm be a cover for mass desertion, or even a rebellion crushed by local allies? Others point to climate data showing a freak drought around 500 BC, turning marginal routes into death traps overnight. The desert keeps its final verdict close. Every few years, another sandstorm shifts the dunes, exposing new fragments. A shattered helmet here, a child's femur there. Each discovery raises more questions than answers. Were these soldiers betrayed by nature, by their king, or by their own hunger for conquest? The sands don't judge, they only bury, and sometimes when the wind shifts just right, they whisper. Long before the pharaohs ruled the Nile, another civilization left their mark in the sands, one that looked not to the river, but to the stars. In Egypt's Nubian desert, a lonely circle of weathered stones stands as Africa's oldest astronomical monument, a silent sentinel to humanity's first attempts to read the heavens. Known as Nabta Playa, this mysterious ring of megaliths dates back nearly 7,000 years, making it older than Stonehenge by over a millennium. But this isn't just a collection of rocks. It's a sophisticated celestial calendar, a stone diary of the sky's movements carved into the desert floor. The genius of Nabta Playa lies in its precision. Archaeologists studying the site discovered that its stones align perfectly with the summer solstice sunrise, while other slabs point to key stars like Sirius and Orion's belt. These weren't random placements, they were a Neolithic GPS, helping ancient pastoralists track seasonal rains vital for survival in an increasingly arid landscape. Imagine standing here 6,000 years ago, watching the first light of the solstice slide between two stones like a key turning in a lock, a signal to move herds or begin ceremonies tied to the heavens. But the stones tell another story, one etched in the bones buried beneath them. Excavations revealed cattle skeletons deliberately placed in clay-lined chambers, their horns adorned with ochre. This was no ordinary livestock, these were revered beings, possibly sacrificed to mark celestial events. Some researchers believe Nabta Playa was the heart of an early cattle cult, where rituals blended astronomy and animal worship. The cattle burials aren't just graves, they're star maps. One group of bones mirrors the arrangement of Orion's belt, suggesting these people saw the cosmos reflected in their herds. The most tantalizing theory connects Nabta Playa to the origins of Egyptian civilization itself. Around 3500 BC, as the desert dried further, the people of Nabta may have migrated toward the Nile, bringing their astronomical knowledge with them. The similarities are striking. Both cultures venerated cattle, aligned structures with solstices, and linked stars to the afterlife. Could the roots of pyramid building lie in these desert stargazers? The stones don't speak, but their legacy might echo in the very foundations of pharaonic Egypt. Today, visiting Nabta Playa feels like stepping into a ghostly classroom. The wind hums through the stones, and if you listen closely, you might almost hear the whispers of the first astronomers. the ones who taught humanity to measure time not by the flicker of campfires, but by the infinite clockwork of the sky. The vast silence of Egypt's eastern desert holds a secret that bridges millennia, a colossal spiral of cones and pits stretching over 1 million square feet, so precise it seems extraterrestrial. But this isn't the work of ancient architects or forgotten gods. It's Desert Breath, a modern earthwork created in 1997 by 3 artists who sought to mirror the desert's eternal dialogue between chaos and order. From the ground, the installation feels like walking through a geometric dream. From the air, it reveals itself as a double-armed spiral radiating outward like a galaxy spun into the sand. What's striking is how this contemporary art echoes the very impulses that drove civilizations like the Nabateans or the builders of Nabta Playa. The same landscapes that once inspired stone circles and celestial alignments now draw artists to wrestle with infinity using bulldozers and GPS. The cones, made of displaced sand, rise like miniature pyramids, while the pits between them catch shadows that shift with the sun, turning the entire piece into a sundial for the patient observer. It's a meditation on time itself, the cones eroding grain by grain, the pits filling with wind-blown dust, a cycle as old as the desert. Yet Desert Breath carries a quiet urgency. Designed to degrade slowly over decades, it's a fleeting mark on a landscape that's seen empires rise and fall. The artists called it a measuring device for the passage of time, but it's also a mirror. Just as the mustatils or the desert kites reveal how ancient people sought to impose meaning on the wild, this spiral asks what traces our own era will leave. Will future archaeologists puzzle over its purpose, or will the sands reclaim it entirely, leaving no more than a whisper? The deeper magic lies in its contradictions. A temporary artwork in a place where time feels infinite. A human signature on a canvas that refuses to be owned. Even the materials defy expectations. The bright blue pigment filling one central pool wasn't chosen for aesthetics alone. It mimics the mirages that dance on the horizon, a reminder that the desert's greatest trick is making us see what isn't there. Standing at the edge of Desert Breath, you feel the weight of all the desert's secrets pressing in, the ancient and the modern, the permanent and the ephemeral. It's a humbling thought that 6,000 years from now, when our cities might be as lost as Ubar, this fragile spiral could still whisper to the wind, a fleeting echo of the human need to say, "We were here." In the heart of Mali's sun-baked Sahara, where the Niger River bends like a question mark, lies a city whose name once meant the edge of the known world, Timbuktu. But beyond its fabled golden age as a trading hub, Timbuktu guards a secret far more precious than gold: hundreds of thousands of manuscripts, hidden for centuries in desert libraries, their pages whispering the lost wisdom of medieval Africa. These aren't just dusty scrolls, they're proof of a scholarly tradition so advanced it rewrote history's assumptions about African intellectual life. Imagine leather-bound volumes filled with star charts accurate enough to guide 15th century sailors, medical treatises detailing cataract surgeries centuries before Europe, and legal texts debating women's rights under Islamic law. One manuscript, the Tariq al-Sudan, chronicles West Africa's empires with a historian's rigor, while another, the Book of Chemistry, describes distillation techniques that predate modern alchemy. These works didn't just survive the desert, they thrived because of it. The arid climate acted as a natural preservative, safeguarding ink made from crushed indigo and gum Arabic on paper crafted from camel hide parchment. Families passed them down like heirlooms, hiding them in chests, burying them in sand, even sealing them into walls to outlast invasions. But in 2012, disaster struck. As jihadist groups seized Timbuktu, they targeted these manuscripts as heresy, burning thousands in bonfires that lit up the desert night. What happened next was a real-life thriller. Librarians and fishermen became smugglers, spiriting the remaining texts out in donkey carts, rice sacks, and even canoes under cover of darkness. Over 350, 000 manuscripts were evacuated to Bamako in a covert operation worthy of a spy novel. One volunteer even strapped a 14th century Quran to his back and rode a motorcycle 600 miles through checkpoints. Today, the race isn't just against extremism, but against time. Humidity in Bamako's makeshift archives is making pages crumble, so conservators fight back with 21st century tools, digitizing texts with spectral imaging, repairing bindings with collagen from Nile fish, and storing them in vacuum-sealed cases. The ultimate goal, to return them to Timbuktu's rebuilt libraries, where new generations can touch the same pages their ancestors studied under the light of oil lamps. What chills the spine is realizing how close we came to losing this. These manuscripts don't just belong to Mali, they're humanity's shared inheritance, proof that the Dark Continent was anything but. The desert tried to hide them, fanatics tried to erase them, but the words endured. Now, as scholars decode marginal notes in Sonic and Songhai languages, they're finding something even rarer than ancient knowledge, the voices of people who refuse to be forgotten. Some deserts don't just whisper, they sing. Across the sands of Morocco, the Gobi, and even Death Valley, travelers have reported an unearthly chorus, deep, resonant booms that seem to rise from the dunes themselves, vibrating through the air like the notes of some colossal instrument. These are the legendary singing sands, a phenomenon so eerie it once had nomads crossing themselves and scholars scratching their heads. But the truth behind these desert songs isn't magic, it's physics in perfect harmony. The secret lies in the sand's movement. When grains avalanche down a dune's steep face, they don't tumble randomly. They slide in synchronized waves, each layer rubbing against the next like bowstrings on a violin. Scientists call it shear-induced acoustic excitation, but the effect is simpler than the jargon. Millions of grains vibrating at the same frequency, somewhere between 70 and 100 Hz, creating a collective hum. The pitch can vary too. Finer, drier sand produces higher tones, while coarse grains in places like the Namib Desert generate deep, cello-like drones that carry for miles. What's fascinating is HOW Chinese letter, the conditions are. Not all dunes sing, and those that do often fall silent if the sand's humidity changes by even a fraction. Researchers discovered that a thin layer of moisture coats the grains in musical dunes, acting like a lubricant to keep the vibrations smooth. Too much water and the sand sticks together, too little and the friction becomes chaotic noise. It's nature's version of tuning an orchestra. Every element has to be just right. The legends surrounding these sands are as rich as the science. Marco Polo wrote of hearing spirit voices in the Taklamakan Desert, while Bedouin folklore warns that the songs are jinn luring the unwary into quicksand. In Chile's Atacama, locals once believed the dunes echoed the cries of Inca warriors buried alive. Even today, the sounds inspire awe. Recordings of Morocco's Sidi Moussa dunes reveal a haunting, almost choral quality, as if the earth itself were chanting. But perhaps the most astonishing detail is how ancient this phenomenon truly is. Chinese texts from the 8th century describe thunder sands along the Silk Road, while early Arab geographers marked singing dunes on maps as navigational aids, their music guiding caravans through trackless wastes. Modern hikers still use them as natural alarms, since the dunes often sing loudest before sandstorms, their grains charged by shifting winds. Standing at the base of a booming dune, you feel the sound as much as hear it, a visceral rumble rising through your boots. It's a reminder that even in the stillness of the desert, nothing is truly silent. The sands have been rehearsing this symphony for millennia, long before humans arrived to give it meaning. And long after we're gone, they'll keep singing, not for us, but for the wind, the stars, and the sheer physics of a universe that never runs out of wonders. In the salt flats of southern Tunisia, where the earth cracks into geometric patterns under the merciless sun, nature sculpts its own kind of flowers, petals not of pollen, but of gypsum, blooming in delicate rosettes across the barren ground. These are the desert roses, mineral formations so improbably intricate they seem plucked from a fairy tale. Each crystal cluster fans outward like a frozen explosion, its blades interlocking in perfect symmetry, some as small as a thumbnail, others wider than a dinner plate. To touch one is to feel time itself solidified. These roses take centuries to form, as groundwater rich in minerals evaporates slowly beneath the crust, leaving behind skeletal blossoms of selenite and sand. The nomadic Bedouin have legends for such wonders. They say these roses sprouted from the tears of a heartbroken goddess punished for loving a mortal. Every crystalline petal is said to hold a fragment of her sorrow, and to this day, travelers whisper that the roses shimmer brightest under a full moon, a nod to their scientific name, gypsum selenite, named after Selene, the Greek moon goddess. But the desert's children didn't just spin tales, they turned myth into practicality. Caravans crossing the Sahara carried desert roses as talismans, believing they warded off evil spirits and guided the lost to oases. Some tribes ground the crystals into powder, mixing them with olive oil as a salve for burns, while others placed them in newborn cradles to ensure a life as resilient as the stone itself. Science, of course, offers its own poetry. The roses form in a precise alchemy of drought and deluge. When rare rains flood the Charts, Tunisia's vast salt pans, they dissolve underground gypsum deposits. As the water retreats, capillary action pulls the mineral-rich brine upward, where the relentless sun bakes it into sheets of crystal that curl and collide, layer upon layer, until they erupt through the crust like floral geysers. The most stunning specimens come from the Chott el-Djerid, a salt flat so blindingly white it's visible from space. Here, the roses grow in clusters, their surfaces etched with hieroglyphic patterns by the wind, each one a diary of the desert's moods. Yet these wonders are fragile. Unlike real flowers, desert roses can't regrow once plucked. A thriving black market sells them to collectors, despite Tunisian laws forbidding their export. The irony cuts deep, a symbol of endurance mined into scarcity. Locals now guard the remaining formations fiercely, hiding their locations like secrets. To stand among them at dawn, when the rising sun sets the crystals ablaze with refracted light, is to understand why. These aren't just rocks, they're the desert's last love letters, written in a language of salt and sun, waiting for those who still know how to read them. North of Egypt's white chalk wonderlands lies a landscape that feels ripped from another planet, the Black Desert, where volcanic cones rise like shattered teeth from plains blanketed in iron-rich debris. Here, the sand isn't golden but charcoal black, every grain coated in a metallic sheen that crackles underfoot like crushed glass. This is a place where fire and earth collided, leaving behind a terrain so harsh it was once dubbed the Devil's Playground by Bedouin guides. But beneath its forbidding surface, the Black Desert hides clues to how ancient Egyptians turned catastrophe into cultural power. The secrets start with the stones. Scattered across the obsidian plains are fist-sized chunks of volcanic basalt, their edges unnaturally sharp. Archaeologists have found identical fragments in Neolithic toolkits hundreds of miles away, proof that these rocks were prized for their durability. Unlike flint, which shatters unpredictably, basalt fractures in clean plains, a gift for early craftsmen shaping axes and arrowheads. But the real revelation came when researchers traced these tools back to their source. Chemical analysis matched them to specific volcanic vents in the Black Desert, revealing trade networks far older than the pharaohs. Nomads weren't just passing through this wasteland, they were mining it, transforming the scars of ancient eruptions into survival. Yet the desert's influence runs deeper than tools. Look closely at early Egyptian cosmology and you'll spot volcanic echoes. The creation myth of the Ogdoad 8 primordial gods who emerged from chaos describes a mound rising from dark waters, spewing forth life. It's a striking parallel to the Black Desert's own geology, where volcanic islands once punched through prehistoric seas. The god Set, often depicted with a curved snout, may owe his fearsome look to the billowing plumes of ash that still occasionally drift from these peaks. Even the pyramid's capstones, originally clad in polished basalt, seem to mirror the desert's gleaming mesa's architecture, imitating the land's raw power. Modern volcanologists have added another layer to the mystery. Core samples reveal that the Black Desert wasn't just active millennia ago. It experienced violent eruptions as recently as 5000 BC, precisely when early Egyptians were developing their first cities. Imagine the awe of watching the horizon ignite, rivers of fire cutting through the night. Such events wouldn't just inspire myths, they'd forge them. A recently discovered rock carving near the oasis of Farafra shows a human figure fleeing a mountain vomiting smoke, its style dating back to the predynastic era. It might be humanity's oldest recorded eruption. Today, the Black Desert whispers its past to those who listen. The iron oxide staining the sands rust red still seeps into groundwater, tinting local wells the color of blood. At dusk, when the temperature plummets, the basalt emits a faint metallic hum, a phenomenon geologists call the desert's heartbeat. And high on the slopes of Jebel Katroni, the region's tallest volcano, faint sulfur vents still exhale, a reminder that this land is only sleeping. For the ancients, that may have been the greatest lesson of all, that creation and destruction are two sides of the same blade, forged in fire and left to cool under an endless sky. Medieval cartographers called it Zarzora, a lush oasis marked on ancient maps deep in the Sahara's most unforgiving reaches, where today there's nothing but endless dunes. The Catalan Atlas of 1375, one of the most detailed maps of its time, shows it as a cluster of palm trees beside a sprawling lake, a vital stop for caravans crossing the desert. Arabic texts from the same era describe its sweet water and fruit-laden groves, a paradise where travelers could rest beneath shaded canopies. Yet by the time European explorers reached the region in the 1800s, Zarzora had vanished without a trace. No ruins, no dried-up lakebed, not even a name passed down through local tribes. How could an oasis simply disappear? Theories abound. Some scholars argue Zarzora was a mirage, not a hallucination, but a case of mistaken identity. The Sahara shifts like a living thing, its dunes swallowing landmarks whole over centuries. What if a real oasis, perhaps near modern-day Timbuktu, was mapped inaccurately, its location drifting farther into the void with each copied manuscript? Others point to climate shifts. Core samples from the region reveal that around 1200 CE, a brief wet period transformed parts of the desert into grasslands. Zarzora could have been one of these fleeting green zones, drying up as rains retreated southward, but the most tantalizing clue comes from an unexpected source: salt. Satellite imaging has revealed ancient riverbeds beneath the sands near the oasis's supposed location, their paths lined with salt flats, telltale signs of evaporated water. Even more compelling, nomadic Tuareg traders still speak of Tagaza, a legendary salt mine lost to the dunes. Salt was more valuable than gold in medieval Africa, and Zarzora's location would have placed it along critical trade routes. Could the oasis have been a seasonal camp for salt caravans, its importance exaggerated over time into myth? Then there's the darker possibility. Arabic accounts mention Zarzora's black stones that burn, a phrase some interpret as coal or even early petroleum seeps. If the oasis sat atop natural tar pits like those in California's La Brea, a catastrophic fire could have consumed its vegetation, leaving the water table poisoned. Local legends tell of a city that turned to smoke, its people fleeing underground. It's a haunting echo of Plato's Atlantis, but with a Saharan twist. Modern explorers haven't given up the search. In 2019, a team using ground-penetrating radar detected anomalous structures beneath the dunes near Algeria's Tassili and Naja Plateau, rectangular patterns too precise for nature. Were these the foundations of Zarzora's caravanserai, or just wind-carved rocks? The desert keeps its secrets close, Perhaps Zarzora was always more mirage than reality, a trick of thirst and hope woven into maps. Or perhaps, like Ubar, it's still out there, waiting for the right storm to blow the sands away and reveal the truth beneath. Until then, it remains the Sahara's ghost, a reminder that even the driest places were once alive. In the heart of Egypt's scorching western desert, where the horizon shimmers with heat and nothing moves but the wind, lies a valley that tells an impossible story, Wadi al-Hitan, the Valley of the Whales. Here, the sand isn't hiding gold or lost cities, but something far stranger, the skeletons of giants. Dozens of fossilized whales, some over 50 feet long, lie half-buried in the rock, their bony forms so perfectly preserved you can almost hear the echo of waves where there hasn't been an ocean for 40 million years. These aren't just any whales, they're Basilosaurus, serpent-like predators with vestigial hind legs, living proof of evolution's most dramatic leap. When paleontologists first uncovered them in the early 1900s, the discovery shattered old assumptions. Darwin had theorized that whales evolved from land mammals, but here was the smoking gun. Creatures caught mid-transformation, their bodies still sporting tiny hips and leg bones, useless for walking but undeniable as relics of a terrestrial past. The valley became a time machine, preserving not just bones but an entire ecosystem. Fossilized mangrove roots, crab burrows, and even the teeth of prehistoric sharks paint a vivid picture. This was once a coastal swamp, a nursery where early whales gave birth in shallow waters before venturing into the deep. What makes Wadi al-Hitan extraordinary isn't just the fossils, but their condition. Many skeletons are articulated, lying exactly as they died, some even with stomach contents revealing their last meals. One specimen, nicknamed the pregnant whale, was found with a fetal skeleton inside her ribs, a poignant snapshot of prehistoric life cut short. The desert's dry air and lack of scavengers acted like a natural museum, freezing moments in time that would have vanished anywhere else. But the real magic lies in the details. Those tiny hind limbs, they're not just evolutionary leftovers, they're clues to how whales traded land for sea. Unlike modern whales, Basilosaurus couldn't echolocate or dive deeply. Instead, its long, sinuous body suggests it hunted like a crocodile, ambushing prey in murky shallows. And those legs, too small for walking but perfect for gripping during mating, a behavior still seen in some river dolphins today. Every bone whispers a chapter of the story, revealing how a group of hoofed mammals, yes, whales' closest living relatives are hippos, turned their bodies into submarines. The irony is delicious. A place now synonymous with emptiness was once a teeming womb of life. The same desert winds that polished these fossils to a glossy sheen also erased all other traces of the ocean that birthed them, leaving the whales stranded in time like messages in a bottle. UNESCO declared Wadi al-Hitan a World Heritage Site in 2005, but its greatest gift isn't just to science, it's to imagination. Standing beside a fossilized spine longer than a bus, it's hard not to feel the weight of time, the sheer audacity of a world that could transform so completely. The desert doesn't just hide secrets, it rewrites them, reminding us that even the most permanent landscapes are just snapshots in an album whose pages never stop turning. Rising from the ochre plains of Oman like something sculpted by giants, the mud brick fortresses of Jabrin and Nizwa aren't just relics, they're masterclasses in survival. Built to endure sieges under a sun that melts stone, these labyrinthine strongholds tell a story of ingenuity written in clay and sweat. Step inside Jabrin's towering walls, and you'll find ceilings painted with celestial murals, their stars still gleaming after 3 centuries, while hidden shafts funnel desert breezes like ancient air conditioning. This wasn't just a castle, it was a heat-defying machine. The genius lies in the details. Walls 14 feet thick at the base taper upward, their slope dispersing cannon fire while minimizing material. Date palm fibers woven into the mud bricks act as natural rebar, flexing with temperature swings that would crumble concrete, but the real stroke of brilliance. The fort's positioning, perched atop limestone outcrops, they commanded views of Wadi's dry riverbeds that became trade highways during monsoon rains. Control these routes and you controlled the flow of frankincense, the white gold that built empires. In 1685, when Persian forces besieged Nizwa, they discovered its walls weren't just strong, they were thirsty. The exterior's gypsum plaster absorbed water from attacking cannons, hardening into armor against bombardment. Yet these forts were more than military marvels. Jabrin's inner chambers hide whispering galleries, oval rooms where a governor could eavesdrop on unsuspecting visitors from hidden alcoves. Beneath Nizwa's central tower, a well plunges 130 feet to secret tunnels, escape routes doubling as aqueducts during droughts. Even the battlements served dual purposes. Their crenellations cast precise shadows, functioning as sundials to mark prayer times across the Islamic world's farthest corners. What's haunting is how these structures mirror the land itself. The same iron-rich clay that turns Oman's deserts rust red at sunset gives the forts their blister-resistant hue. Architects didn't fight the desert's brutality, they weaponized it, designing death traps like Nizwa's Honey Gate, where boiling date syrup could be poured onto invaders. Today, restored wind towers still spin like compass roses, harnessing breezes to cool rooms without a watt of electricity. But perhaps the most humbling lesson lies in their decay. Sections of Jabrin left unrestored show how quickly the desert reclaims its own bricks, dissolving into dust within decades once maintenance stops. These forts weren't just built on the desert, they were locked in a dance with it, their survival depending on constant, careful renewal. Walking their corridors now, you can almost hear the echo of masons murmuring the old Amani proverb, "A fortress is only as strong as the hands that mend it." In a world obsessed with permanence, these sun-baked sentinels remind us that endurance isn't about resisting change, it's about bending with it grain by grain. The Atacama Desert is no stranger to strangeness. Its bone-dry valleys and rust-colored plains have yielded mummies, meteorites, and minerals that defy explanation. But in 2003, a new discovery sent shockwaves through the internet. A 6-inch-long skeleton with an elongated skull, nicknamed Otter, touted as proof of extraterrestrial life. Tabloids screamed alien baby found in Chile, while UFO enthusiasts dissected its X-rays, convinced science had finally confirmed their wildest dreams. There was just one problem: the truth was far stranger than fiction. Forensic scientists quickly dismantled the myth. DNA analysis revealed Otter was human, a tragically premature female fetus with severe genetic mutations that stunted her growth and deformed her bones. The alien skull, a result of an ancestral condition causing cranial malformation. The real mystery wasn't her origins, but how she became a spectacle. The skeleton had been looted from an unmarked grave, stripped of dignity to feed a lucrative pseudoscience market. Researchers traced her to a Chilean ghost town, where similar mummified infants were once placed in secluded caves as part of indigenous burial rites. The desert hadn't birthed an alien, it had safeguarded a child, only for her remains to be exploited as clickbait. This wasn't an isolated case. From Morocco's Mars meteorite scams to Egypt's alien hieroglyph photoshops, deserts are ground zero for archaeo-hoaxes. Their vastness invites speculation after all. If a skeleton can surface in the Atacama, why not evidence of ancient astronauts? Scammers bank on this allure, seeding fake artifacts where the landscape itself feels otherworldly. In 2018, viral videos showed alien metal fragments in Iraq's deserts, later exposed as shredded soda cans weathered by sandstorms. Even legitimate finds get twisted. When Peruvian archaeologists uncovered elongated skulls from the Paracas culture, conspiracy theorists ignored the cultural practice of head binding, insisting the bones were hybrid alien-human. Why do these hoaxes thrive in deserts? Blame the mystique void. Unlike jungles or cities, deserts offer few visual references for scale or context, making ordinary objects seem inexplicable. A weathered rock becomes a crashed UFO, a camel bone fragment transforms into a reptilian femur. The silence plays tricks to our brains wired to seek patterns, conjure meaning from wind-sculpted stones. But the darker truth lies in economics. A single alien artifact can fetch thousands from collectors, funding looters who ravage real archaeological sites. In Jordan's Badlands, Bedouin guides admit planting fake, ancient astronaut carvings to satisfy tourists, a practice so widespread locals call it desert theater. Science pushes back. Portable spectrometers now detect modern tool marks on ancient relics, while isotopic analysis traces bones to their true origins. But the battle isn't just about facts, it's about respect. Every hoax distracts from actual wonders like the Atacame's prehistoric petroglyphs or the Sahara's fossilized whale valleys. These landscapes deserve better than to be reduced to backdrops for conspiracy theories. They're archives of human resilience written in dust and stone. The next time you see a desert alien headline, remember Otter, not as proof of visitors from the stars, but as a reminder that the real marvels here were always earthly, fragile, and profoundly human. The desert guards its wonders jealously, but none are more breathtaking or more feared than the silent cliffs of al-hijr. Known also as Madain Sail, this sprawling Nabatean city in Saudi Arabia's Al-Ula region is Petra's lesser-known sister. Its sandstone facades carved with the same intricate precision, yet shrouded in a mystery even deeper. Over 130 tombs rise from the rust-colored rock, their ornate pediments and towering columns untouched by time, a testament to a civilization that mastered the art of turning stone into poetry. But unlike Petra, whose streets echo with tourists, al-hijr stands eerily empty, a place locals once refused to enter, whispering that it was cursed by the wrath of God. The legends cling like desert dust. According to Islamic tradition, al-hijr was home to the Thamud people, an ancient tribe who rejected the Prophet Salih's warnings and was struck down by a divine blast for their arrogance. The Quran describes their dwellings as hollowed-out mountains, a description so precise it chills the spine when you stand before the actual tombs. Bedouin elders still recount stories of strange voices heard at dusk or carvings that weep red oxide when touched. Even in modern times, many Saudi families avoided the site, fearing the jinn said to guard its ruins. Yet archaeology paints a different picture. Al-hijr wasn't a city of sinners, but a thriving trade hub, its wealth flowing from the same frankincense routes that enriched Petra. The Nabateans didn't just carve tombs here, they engineered an oasis. Hidden beneath the sand are cisterns and wells so advanced they could sustain thousands, while inscriptions reveal a cosmopolitan mix of Greek, Roman, and local traders. One tomb's lintel bears a dedication to a woman named Wailu. Her name flanked by winged lions, proof that Nabatean women held status powerful enough to commission monuments alongside kings. What makes al-hijr uniquely haunting is its preservation. Unlike Petra, where earthquakes and floods eroded softer stone, the arid climate here froze the city in time. Friezes still show eagles clutching serpents, symbols of Nabatean royalty, while false doors carved into tomb facades mirror those in Egyptian pyramids, a nod to cultural exchange across deserts. UNESCO declared it Saudi Arabia's first World Heritage Site in 2008, dubbing it a ghost city, not for supernatural reasons, but because its abandonment left it eerily intact, a snapshot of Nabatean life abruptly paused. Today, as Saudi Arabia opens its doors to tourism, al-hijr's curse is fading. Visitors now walk its silent streets, tracing the grooves left by Nabatean chisels. But the desert hasn't relinquished all its secrets. Recent LiDAR scans revealed unexcavated chambers beneath the tombs, their entrances sealed with stones bearing cryptic symbols. Some scholars believe these could hold the graves of al-hijr's elite, their treasures untouched. Others whisper of something stranger, perhaps the very halls where the Thamud met their end, if the legends hold truth. Standing in the shadow of these cliffs at sunset, when the stone glows like embers, you understand why al-hijr inspires both awe and dread. It's a place where history and myth blur, where every carving seems to whisper two versions of the past, one written by scholars, the other by the wind. The Nabateans left no record of why they abandoned this masterpiece. Maybe the wells ran dry, or maybe, just maybe, they too heard the voices in the rocks and decided some secrets weren't worth unearthing. Beneath the Sahara's endless dunes lies a secret that rewrites everything we thought we knew about this barren expanse, a sprawling network of ancient rivers, their ghostly outlines only visible from space. The most colossal of these, the Tamanrasset, once rivaled the Nile in grandeur, its waters carving valleys through what's now the driest place on Earth. Satellite radar imaging reveals its skeletal path, stretching over 900 miles from the Atlas Mountains to the Atlantic, flanked by the fossilized remains of hippopotamus bones and freshwater mollusks. This wasn't just a river, it was a lifeline, a blue artery pumping life into a green Sahara. The climate shift that killed it holds eerie parallels to our own era. Around 5,000 years ago, the African humid period, a millennia-long rainy epoch, collapsed abruptly. Scientists analyzing ocean sediment cores found that within just 2 centuries, monsoon patterns shifted, turning grasslands to dust. The Tamanrasset shrank from a torrent to a trickle, then vanished entirely, leaving behind cryptic clues. In Mauritania's Adrar region, Neolithic cave paintings depict giraffes and crocodiles alongside canoes, unthinkable in today's hyper-arid landscape. Further east, in what's now Libya, archaeologists uncovered fishhooks and pottery fragments in the middle of sand seas, remnants of lakeside settlements swallowed by the dunes. The human cost of this drying was catastrophic. The Gobero burial site in Niger tells a haunting story. Skeletons of the Kiffian culture, a thriving fishing society dating back 10,000 years, lie beneath layers of wind-blown sediment. Above them, graves of the Tenerian people show signs of violence and malnutrition, their tools shifting from harpoons to grinding stones as their world turned to dust. This wasn't a slow decline but a cascading collapse, forcing mass migrations that may have seeded civilizations along the Nile and Niger rivers. Genetic studies of modern Sahel populations reveal traces of these ancient refugees, their DNA a living archive of the Sahara's lost wet phase. What chills the spine is realizing how recently this happened in geological terms. The pyramids of Giza were already ancient when the last oases dried up. Could the legend of Atlantis, first mentioned by Plato around 360 BCE, be a distorted memory of Saharan collapses? Some scholars think so, pointing to similarities between his descriptions and the Garamantian civilization of southern Libya, which built Fagara's underground irrigation tunnels to survive the aridification before vanishing around 500 CE. Modern technology is peeling back the sand's layers like pages in a forgotten book. The European Space Agency's swarm satellites detected subtle magnetic anomalies tracing the Tamanrasset's buried channels, while ground-penetrating radar in Algeria's Thames-roofed basin revealed fossilized riverbanks 16 stories beneath the surface. The implications are staggering. These buried waterways could hold clues to climate resilience or even untapped aquifers, liquid gold in a warming world. But the desert's lesson isn't just about loss. In Chad's Ennedi Plateau, isolated pockets of water still harbor species thought extinct elsewhere, living relics of the Green Sahara. Their existence whispers a warning and a hope that ecosystems like civilizations can cling to life in the unlikeliest places. The Sahara wasn't always a tomb, it was a cradle. And if climate could reshape it once, who's to say it won't again? The sands hold more than just secrets, they hold mirrors, reflecting the fragility of everything we take for granted. For millennia, Lop Nur was a place of myth, a shifting salt lake at the heart of the Taklamakan Desert, where Chinese legends spoke of lost cities swallowed by sands and travelers warned of a sea of death that lured caravans off course with mirages. Marco Polo described it as a haunted wasteland. Silk Road merchants told tales of ghostly lights flickering over its brackish waters. But in the 20th century, this ancient landscape became the stage for a different kind of mystery, one written in mushroom clouds and radioactive isotopes. China's nuclear program chose Lop Nor as its testing ground, detonating 45 atomic bombs between 1964 and 1996, each explosion layering a new kind of secret onto this already enigmatic land. The irony is staggering. Where Han Dynasty explorers once searched for jade and exotic spices, scientists now study the eerie resilience of glassed sand trinitite, the mineral formed when nuclear fire melts desert silica into emerald green crusts. The same winds that once buried Tang Dynasty artifacts now carry trace plutonium particles across the Tarim Basin, embedding them in the roots of poplar trees that have stood for centuries. Even the lake itself, dried to a salt flat by the time testing began, seems to mock human ambition, its phantom waters reappearing briefly after rare rains, as if reminding us that nature's cycles outlast even our most destructive experiments. Yet Lop Nor's transformation from Silk Road enigma to atomic proving ground reveals a deeper truth about deserts. They've always been humanity's blank canvases for both creation and annihilation. Ancient traders built watchtowers along its edges to guard against bandits. Cold War engineers erected concrete observation bunkers to measure blast radii. The same desolation that made Lop Nor a graveyard for lost travelers also made it perfect for testing bombs. No population to evacuate, no landmarks to destroy, just endless space to contain the uncontainable. Now, satellite images show a landscape scarred by circular craters, their symmetry jarring against the desert's organic dunes. Ground zero of China's first hydrogen bomb test in 1967 is marked by a 200-foot-wide depression filled with fused sand, while nearby, the wreckage of dummy tanks and aircraft lies twisted into surreal sculptures by the force of the blast. But the most haunting relics aren't man-made. Scientists have found mutant tamarisk shrubs with leaves 3 times their normal size, their DNA scrambled by radiation, while deep underground, aquifers potentially bear traces of radioactive isotopes that could persist for millennia. What does it mean when a place transitions from holding the secrets of lost civilizations to harboring the fallout of our own? Perhaps the answer lies in the ruins of the ancient Lulan kingdom, discovered near Lop Nor's edge in the early 20th century. Its mummies, preserved perfectly by the arid climate, were expressions of calm repose, a stark contrast to the startled faces of mannequins placed at nuclear test sites, their plastic skin blistered by simulated blasts. Both are time capsules, one unintentional, the other deliberate, each telling stories of human ambition colliding with the desert's indifference. Today, Lop Nor stands as a paradox, a military exclusion zone where archaeologists still uncover 3rd-century Buddhist frescoes beneath barbed wire fences. The desert hasn't erased our nuclear secrets, it's merely added them to its existing catalogue of mysteries, treating plutonium with the same patient silence it once reserved for silk and spices. In 1,000 years, when the half-life of our isotopes has dwindled to nothing, the sands may whisper again of older things, proving once more that in the desert, no secret is ever final, just waiting its turn to be buried, rediscovered, and reinterpreted beneath the same unblinking sky. The desert doesn't just bury ancient civilizations, it swallows modern ones whole, leaving behind twisted metal and unanswered questions. Among its most haunting mysteries are the plains that vanished without a trace, their wreckage hidden beneath the sands for decades, only to resurface with stories more chilling than fiction. Take the case of the Stardust, a British South American Airways airliner that disappeared in 1947 while crossing the Andes. For 50 years, it was a footnote in aviation history, until climbers stumbled upon its wreckage in 1998, its engines buried under glacial ice. But the Sahara holds an even darker tale, the disappearance of a French military plane in 1959, carrying a crew of 10 over the Tenere Desert. When their remains were found 30 years later scattered across the dunes, investigators uncovered a logbook with one final entry: navigational error. No landmarks, the desert had stripped them of bearings, turning the sky itself into a featureless void. Then there's the bizarre case of the ghost bombers, World War II-era aircraft discovered deep in the Egyptian desert, their cockpits empty but their fuel tanks half full. One, a B-24 Liberator, sat perfectly intact near the Libyan border for 60 years, its radio still set to the emergency frequency. Locals claimed its crew had wandered into the dunes, searching for help that never came. The most unsettling detail, flight logs showed these planes hadn't even been reported missing. The vastness of the desert had erased them from memory before anyone noticed they were gone. But the ultimate puzzle belongs to the Lady Be Good, an American B-24 that vanished in 1943 during a bombing run over Italy. 15 years later, oil prospectors found its wreckage in the Libyan desert, 400 miles off course. Inside, they recovered perfectly preserved survival gear, parachute silk repurposed as shade, a makeshift still for distilling water, and a pilot's diary detailing a month-long struggle to reach civilization. The crew had survived the crash, only to walk to their deaths in a landscape that offered mirages instead of mercy. Their skeletons were eventually found 80 miles from the plane, some still clutching canteens filled with undrinkable salt water. What makes these wrecks so unnerving isn't just their isolation, but the desert's cruel talent for deception. Modern pilots call it featureless terrain syndrome, a phenomenon where endless sand erodes depth perception, making mountains look like clouds and horizons vanish into haze. Radar can't always distinguish dunes from waves, and GPS signals falter under the desert's electromagnetic quirks. Even satellites struggle. In 2018, researchers using AI-powered imaging discovered 7 previously unknown crash sites near Algeria's Hoggar Mountains, all missed by human eyes for half a century. The real horror lies in the artifacts left behind. A wristwatch stopped at the exact moment of impact, a child's crayon drawing tucked into a flight manual. These aren't just wrecks, they're time capsules of final moments, preserved by the very aridity that doomed their occupants. The desert doesn't discriminate between eras, whether it's a Roman caravan or a jetliner, the result is the same. Silence, then sand, then the slow reveal of a story no one lived to tell. From lost cities that rose like mirages to skeletal whales stranded in seas of sand, the desert has proven itself the ultimate guardian of Earth's greatest enigmas. These 25 secrets aren't just footnotes in history, they're testaments to the raw, untamed power of the sands to preserve what time elsewhere erases, and to perplex even the sharpest minds with riddles etched in stone and whispers carried on the wind. Whether it's the celestial precision of Nabta Playa's stargazers, the haunting geoglyphs of Saudi Arabia's kite builders, or the radioactive echoes of Lopner's atomic craters, each mystery peels back another layer of our collective past, revealing a world far stranger and more magnificent than we ever imagined. The desert doesn't surrender its secrets easily. It demands patience. Archaeologists sifting grains like detectives at a crime scene, Bedouin guides decoding landscapes written in the language of wind and erosion. Yet for every puzzle solved, the discovery of Ubar, the decoding of the Dead Sea Scrolls, a dozen more remain. Who sealed the chambers beneath the mustatils and why? What became of Zarzora's vanished oasis, or the Persian army Herodotus claimed the sands swallowed whole? The beauty lies in the unanswered questions, the blank spaces on the map that still ignite our curiosity. Now it's your turn. Which of these mysteries captivated you the most? Was it the library cave of the Mogao Grottos, where a single hidden chamber held manuscripts from 1,000 years of Silk Road history? Or the desert roses of Tunisia, their crystalline petals blooming where no flower should survive. Drop your favorites in the comments and don't hold back on theories. Could the Black Desert's volcanic fury have inspired Egypt's creation myths? Might the next storm reveal another skeleton in the Valley of the Whales, rewriting evolution once more? The conversation doesn't end here, because here's the thrilling truth: the desert isn't done with us. For every relic unearthed, countless others still lie buried, waiting for the right shift in the wind, the right satellite image, the right curious mind to ask, what if? So keep wondering, keep exploring, and remember, the next great discovery might not come from a team of experts, but from someone like you, watching this very video, who dares to look at the dunes and see not emptiness but endless possibility. The sands have kept their silence for millennia, but when they're ready to speak again, will you be listening?